talk about issues that actually affect us in our everyday lives, but we look at these issues from a spiritual point of view, mainly because we are spiritual beings who are living here on this earth in this material world. You're a spirit being inside, or shall we say, encased in a physical body. And you need this physical body to be able to communicate, interact. And we interact with our surroundings through our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. So today, the question is, what holds you inside your body? What keeps you glued inside your body? When you're no longer in the body, we say you're dead. But it's really not you that's dead, it's the body that's dead, right? So what's the glue that keeps the body attached to the spirit? Well, I'll tell you the conclusions that I have arrived at. One, your body is magnetically attached to your spirit. Or you could say your spirit is magnetically attached to your body. A good analogy is we all know that the earth revolves around the sun. And the fact that these planets, not only the earth, but all the other planets that revolve around our sun, they go in an elliptical motion. You know what elliptical means? They don't go in a circle, they go in an elliptical motion. When you have an elliptical motion, it creates a magnetic field, and that magnetic field attracts whatever it is that's going in that motion. And that magnetic force is what keeps the earth attached or glued to the sun. It can't fly away from the sun or any of the other planets that are going in this elliptical motion around the sun. In the same way, in your body, there is an elliptical motion, which is the flow of your blood. Your blood flows up and down, up and down. But when you think of it, it's not flowing up and down in a big circle. It's actually going in a vertical elliptical motion. See how my hand is going up and down, but also around and around. That movement of your blood creates a magnetic field. And that magnetic field is an energy. We call that energy your vital force. Now, the magnetic field in itself holds your spirit in your body, and it circulates through every part of your body. When the blood stops doing this circulation, the body simply falls away from the spirit. Or you can say the spirit simply becomes unencased by the body. This is important information because it kind of sets the basis for what we're going to be talking about today. Now, in your blood are what we call stem cells. We all know about stem cells, right? Stem cells are the cells that contain all your genetic code. Call it your DNA if you want, but it contains your genetic code. And every cell in your body originated from a stem cell. So the stem cells are the cells that will eventually become all the other cells in your body and all the organs in your body. But your stem cell contains the genetic code of your body. Well, where do you get the genetic code? You get the genetic code, you inherit the genetic code or the genes from your parents, who inherited their genes from their parents, and so on and so forth. So your physical body is built on your genetic code. We could say you inherit your physical body through the cooperation of your parents. Without them, you couldn't have that body. Okay. Now, your genetic code also determines your physical characteristics. So for all of us, we all have different physical characteristics, and those characteristics are based on our genes. There's no two people that have exactly the same physical characteristics except identical twins. So identical twins can have the same physical characteristics, but do they have the same behavior patterns, the same emotional characteristics? Not necessarily. So that tells us something, that there is more to your total makeup than just your physical characteristics. So if we say your spirit is in a body, that it is glued to the body, it somehow entered that body, and we call the process of entering a physical body incarnation. We're not going to go into that right now. We know that you are not your body. So what determines which body you're going to enter into when you come to the material world, when you come to be born, because you can't get into the material world except by being born, into a body. What determines which body you're going to get? And by extension, which physical characteristics you're going to get. Because you're a spirit, everything that happens with you, with me, is subject to spiritual principles, or you can call them spiritual laws. So I'm going to talk about three of those laws. The first law is the law of cycles. We've talked about these laws at previous meetings. On YouTube, I have videos of previous meetings that discuss the spiritual laws. But let's start with these three spiritual laws. The first one is the law of cycles. Everything goes in cycles. All development occurs in cycles. And the law of cycles says we as humans live again and again on the earth. Each earth life is one cycle in the process of our development. Each lifespan on earth is one cycle. And we need these multiple lifetimes because we gain and grow and mature through the experiences that we have when we are on the earth, when we're in the material world. By interacting with one another, by interacting with the world, we learn new lessons, we grow spiritually more mature with each lifetime. That's the ideal. And it's a necessary thing because not a single one of us is capable of attaining to perfection in one lifetime. I mean, if you look at yourself, I'm 74 years old. I've already lived the major part of my life and I only have a few years to go. And I know that I'm nowhere near perfect. So we all need multiple lifetimes to actually improve ourselves. The second law is the law of attraction of same kind. What that law means is that spiritually, because these are spiritual laws, your spirit is drawn only to circumstances, situations, families, parents who share similar spiritual traits and tendencies as you. You could not be born to any other situation except parents or family or siblings or close relatives who have some affinity to your spiritual characteristics and traits. Don't take that too lightly. The third law is the law of karma. The law of karma says you will be drawn, you will be attracted or pulled to situations, circumstances which induce you to recognize your weaknesses, and if you are open to recognizing your weaknesses, induce you to work on them. And conversely, you are drawn to situations, circumstances that induce you to recognize your innate strengths and develop them. So these three laws are the laws that are active and equally active, all three, in determining why you were born in the first place and how or where you get born. Now, let's go back to the law of attraction. What draws you to where you're going to get born or where you are born is the law of attraction, spiritual attraction. So what is being attracted to what? It's your spiritual tendencies, your spiritual traits, your strengths, your weaknesses. And if we want to talk about that, remember that the reason we are all born again and again is because we have weaknesses that we need to work on. And we come to this particular lifetime carrying the sum total of everything that we have done, been, experienced from all the previous lifetimes. Now, for many of us, we come with the same weaknesses that we've been carrying with us from previous lifetimes. And we get born into circumstances that are intended to help us see these weaknesses and do something about them. But the sum total of your traits, your tendencies, is what determines your choices in the first place. So your traits, your tendencies, your weaknesses, your strengths are all what comprise your personality. So even a newborn baby comes with a fully formed personality. As a child grows into adulthood, the child has to also begin to learn about himself or herself and be able to see where he or she needs to do work as they become an adult. At the last meeting, we talked about emotions. And one way that your spirit interacts is through emotions. And we agreed that emotion is energy in motion or a movement of energy through your being. When this energy is moving through your body, it permeates your whole body. And how does it do that? It does that through your blood. Your blood permeates every part of you. And so your blood carries this energy of this emotion throughout your whole body. At the last meeting, we only barely touched upon the process of you generating an emotion and then generating thoughts, words, and deeds. But the emotion itself is a magnetic energy and it must flow through your blood. So the kinds of emotions and the variety and variations of emotions that you choose to emote, let's put it that way. The variety of emotions that you emote are registered in your body in the, shall we say, in the vibration or the radiation of your blood. I want you to really understand that vibration, energy, radiation are one and the same thing. We use different words, but they are all manifestations of movements of energy, and they always generate magnetic energy, or they generate magnetism. They pull you to whatever is similar, or pulls whatever is similar to you. So your body, as you grow up from childhood, infancy to childhood, to adolescence, to adulthood, and so on, your body goes through changes. And these changes originate in your blood. Your blood composition, let's use that word, changes. And as your blood composition changes, it produces hormones that are different. Your body changes along with it. But we said that your blood is where all your emotions and the variety and intensity of your emotions is situated, and it affects your blood, affects your emotions affect your blood. But we know that, right? We know that if you're angry, your blood pressure goes up. Little things like that. But we don't really take it into account as to how it really affects us as human spirits. The intensity and variety and changes in the expression of your emotions in your body is what we call your temperament. So one person might have emotions that just bubble out of them, and another person has emotions that are just simple, easy and not too up and down. Your emotions in your body, how they manifest through your body is your temperament. And since we know that your body and your blood undergo specific changes in different phases of your life, that means that your temperament also undergoes changes in different phases of your life. Your spirit has these emotions, but your spirit actually chooses what emotions it's going to have. So the deciding factor is your spirit, the tendencies of your spirit. So in a way, one could say, yes, your temperament is something that you inherit with your body and your blood, because your body and your blood are in a way related to your genetic code, to your genes. But your spirit is something that belongs to you and you alone. You don't inherit anything of your spirit from your parents. So, in a manner, we could say that your spirit has choice in how you are going to manifest your temperament. But let's see how these spiritual laws actually work to impact our lives. I was having a conversation with my sister, and she said something like, all these movie stars, their children end up, getting it so easy, and they become movie stars overnight. There has to be some nepotism involved. Or one could say, oh, the musicians, their kids just become famous musicians just like that. Well, the truth is, yes, there's a slight bit of nepotism, but it's the law. It's the spiritual law. You will be drawn to those circumstances or situations where your strengths will be enhanced and your weaknesses also will become more visible to you if you're open to seeing them, right? So, you know, people with artistic abilities tend to be born into situations of artistic inclination. And in the same way, let's say children are born into situations of addiction, violence, and things like that. In many instances, not all, but in the majority of instances, they themselves came with addiction already. It's not like they learned addiction from their parents. Their parents, they were attracted to those parents because they themselves were already addicted from a previous life or from multiple lifetimes. And when we talk about addiction, we're not talking about just crystal meth or cocaine. It could be addiction to violence. It could be addiction to power. There are many different kinds of addiction. As far as spiritual law is concerned, addiction is addiction. It's not what you're addicted to. It's that you have a spiritual weakness, which is the addiction. One asks, why is it important to know these things? Well, you think about it this way. Each earth life that we go through is an opportunity to grow a little bit or move a little one step upwards in your spiritual development. But you can only do that if you are conscious of the fact that this is what is happening. But we live in a society that the majority of us in the world don't take the concept or the idea of multiple lives into account. So, doctors don't, psychologists don't, uh, judges don't, parents don't. And because of that, we can't see our way to fixing many problems, which we just continue over and over and over again to foster. So when you think about your earth life, you start out you're born, As a baby, you grow, you become a child, then you become an adolescent, then you become an adult, and then you grow old, and then you die. And then you start all over again. You do it all over again and again and again. What's the purpose during each lifespan? One could say that each lifespan is divided into four phases. And those four phases are childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and then old age, or what we call senescence. During each one of those phases, your body goes through changes, or rather, shall we say, during the transition from one phase to the other, your body is going through changes and your blood is changing. The predominant emotions that are manifesting themselves in you are also changing. So, because your emotions and your blood are changing with each of these phases, one could say your temperament changes through each phase in your lifetime. So, let's talk about the phases. In childhood, think about a child. A child is carefree, lives in the moment, has no sense of responsibility. But it's not only that. They're happy one minute, sad the next minute. And they have tantrums. But then during childhood, what happens? The child has to gradually learn about the quote unquote rules. The child has to learn about action and reaction. If the child sticks his finger in a flame, his finger gets burned, he learns. Don't do that again. You can't do that again. If he jumps off, a high something and falls and scrapes his knee, he knows not to do that again. So the child begins to learn about the basic laws of nature. And at the same time, the parents are teaching the child about the laws of society. Well, don't lie, don't steal, don't do this, don't do that. You have to go to school. You have to learn mathematics. You have to learn that 2 and 2 always makes 4 and it never makes 3. That kind of thing. The emotions that a child exhibits, we call the sanguine temperament. The temperament of a child is sanguine. And the word sanguine, it's Latin for blood. So the child just goes with whatever emotion is going through its blood. Then, as the child becomes an adolescent, something happens that the person changes. The adolescent becomes pensive, brooding, depressed, anxious. They begin to want to separate themselves from their parents. They want to assert themselves. They are trying to figure out who they are. They want to express their own ideas, their own volition. They want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to be told what to do. That's an adolescent for you, right? We call that the melancholic temperament. And indeed, a lot of adolescents become melancholic. They're depressed and they don't know why. They're sad and they don't know why. They're looking for something and they don't know what. Then, as we grow older and become adults, our temperament again changes. And this time, our temperament changes and we become more interested in finding our place in the society. Like we become caught up with setting goals, achieving those goals, becoming responsible, contributory members of the society. But more importantly, for many of us, it's about achieving something. And then we get older and we begin to move into old age. And when we're full-fledged adults, we call that the choleric temperament. And choleric, actually, the word choleric comes from gallbladder, liver, gallbladder. So during adulthood, the liver is a very important organ because there is a lot of activity that goes on in your liver that supports your physical energy and your sense of motivation. As you go into old age, then you go into what's called the phlegmatic temperament. And a person ideally slows down, becomes more perceptive and gathers all the lessons that they have learned in the course of their life and gradually prepares themselves to disengage or disconnect from their body. But it's a gradual process. And it's important to know that when they leave that body, they cannot take anything with them, anything except the lessons they have learned. That's it. Only the lessons they have learned.